For the first 10 years, our marriage was a major chord. It was resonant, stable, and possessed a harmonic integrity that I assumed was unbreakable. Sarah was a trauma surgeon. I was a cellist with the City Symphony. We were a study in complementary opposites. She dealt in the visceral, bloody urgency of the body, and I dealt in the ethereal, mathematical abstraction of sound. Our home was a sanctuary of dark wood and heavy velvet curtains designed to dampen the noise of the city. We had a rhythm, a tempo that we both adhered to without speaking. I knew that when she came home after a 20-hour shift, she needed exactly 30 minutes of silence and a glass of Pinot Noir before she could speak. She knew that when I was composing, the frantic scratching of my pencil was a signal to leave the door ajar, but not to enter. There was a profound comfort in this predictability. It was the comfort of a well-practiced symphony. You didn't have to look at the conductor to know when the crescendo was coming. You felt it in the air. But comfort, if left too long in the sun, begins to curdle. It transforms from safety into stagnation. I remember watching her sleep one rainy Tuesday. Her hands, those capable, steady hands that stitched people back together, were twitching slightly on the pillow. I felt a surge of love, yes, but it was a dusty, museum-quality love. It was an appreciation for an artifact. I realized with a sinking feeling in my gut that I could predict every sentence she would say for the rest of the week. The mystery had evaporated, leaving behind only the dry residue of routine. 2. The fermata. The silence began to stretch. In music, a fermata is a pause of unspecified length, a holding of a note, or a rest. Our marriage entered a perpetual fermata. We stopped asking the real questions. "How was your day?" became a phatic gesture, a noise made to fill the void rather than an inquiry. I stopped telling her about the politics of the orchestra, the petty rivalries in the string section. She stopped telling me about the ghosts of the patients she couldn't save. We protected each other from our burdens, but in doing so, we built a wall of benevolent neglect. I began to resent the quiet. I resented the way she chewed her toast, too loudly, the way she organized the mail, too meticulously, the way she breathed. These were hairline fractures in the hull of a ship, invisible to the naked eye but groaning under the pressure of the deep ocean. I wanted friction. I wanted a wrong note. I wanted something to shatter the glass stillness of our evenings. But Sarah was unfailingly kind, unfailingly tired, and unfailingly there. Her constancy became an accusation. It highlighted my own restlessness, my own inability to be satisfied with peace. 3rd, the counter melody. Her name was Elena. She was the new second-chair violist, 24, hungry, and vibrating with an intensity that I had forgotten existed. It didn't start with seduction. It started with the music. We were rehearsing Mahler, a piece demanding emotional devastation. During a break, she approached me, her eyes wide and dark. "You're playing the Adagio too cleanly," she said, her voice a low hum. "It needs to sound like you're bleeding." I should have been offended. I was the veteran. She was the novice. Instead, I felt a shock of recognition. She saw the boredom I'd been hiding behind my technique. We started meeting for practice sessions, then for drinks to discuss phrasing, then for dinners where we didn't discuss music at all. Elena was the chaos I had been craving. She was messy. Her apartment was a disaster of sheet music and empty wine bottles. She argued with me. She challenged me. She made me feel like a man, not just a husband or a fixture in a house. The first time we slept together, it wasn't romantic. It was urgent, almost violent, a release of pressure that had been building for years. It felt like playing a dissonant chord and refusing to resolve it. It felt like breaking a rule I had sworn to uphold, and the transgression itself was the drug. I told myself it was harmless. Sarah is busy, I rationalized. Sarah doesn't need me like this. Sarah has her patience. Elena has me. I convinced myself that I was capable of compartmentalization, that I could keep these two melodies running in parallel without them ever crashing into each other. IV. Variations on a lie. The double life is an exhausting performance. It requires a level of improvisation that drains the soul. I became a master of the small lie. Rehearsal went late. The traffic on the bridge was a nightmare. I'm going to the studio to work on the score. I washed my clothes twice, once at the laundromat near Elena's to remove her scent, and once at home to layer on the smell of my own detergent. I deleted text messages before I even unlocked my front door. I stopped looking Sarah in the eye, focusing instead on the bridge of her nose or her forehead. The guilt was a physical weight, a stone swallowed and sitting in the stomach. But strange as it sounds, the guilt also fueled the affair. The worse I felt about betraying Sarah, the more I needed Elena's validation to prove that I wasn't a monster, just a complicated man. I would come home to the smell of Sarah's roasted chicken, see her asleep on the sofa with a medical journal on her chest, and feel a wave of nausea. I was poisoning the ecosystem of our home. I was introducing a virus into a sterile environment. And yet, the moment my phone buzzed in my pocket, a phantom vibration against my thigh, my heart would leap. I was addicted to the oscillation, the saintly husband and the selfish lover. I was living in the tension between two opposing notes, terrified of the moment they would resolve. V. The discord. The discovery was quiet. There was no shouting, no dramatic confrontation with evidence thrown on the table. It was a matter of laundry. I had been careful, always so careful. But arrogance makes you sloppy. I had left a receipt in the pocket of my blazer, a receipt for a bracelet I had bought Elena. A delicate silver thing, nothing like the jewelry Sarah wore. I came home one evening to find Sarah sitting in the armchair by the window, the same spot where I used to watch her sleep. The blazer was hanging on the back of the chair. The receipt was on the side table, smoothed out, anchored by a coaster. The silence in the room was absolute. It wasn't the comfortable silence of the past. It was a vacuum, sucking the oxygen out of the air. "Sarah," I started, my voice cracking. She turned to look at me. Her face was pale, stripped of blood. She looked like she was in shock, the medical kind, where the body shuts down to preserve the core organs. "I didn't buy a bracelet," she said. Her voice was clinical, detached. "And I certainly didn't buy one on a Tuesday afternoon when you were supposed to be in recording." I opened my mouth to spin a lie, a gift from my mother, a misunderstanding, but the words died in my throat. The look in her eyes stopped me. It wasn't anger. It was a profound, crushing disappointment. It was the look of a surgeon who opens a patient and realizes the cancer has spread too far to cut out. "It's the vilest, isn't it?" she asked. I froze. "How?" "You hum her parts," Sarah whispered. "In the shower, in the kitchen. You've been humming the viola line for months, Julian. You don't even play the viola." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. My own music had betrayed me. "I can stop," I pleaded, falling to my knees, grasping for her hand. Her skin was ice cold. "Sarah, please. It meant nothing. I can stop." She pulled her hand away gently, as if touching me caused her physical pain. "It didn't mean nothing, Julian. It meant you were bored of us. It meant I wasn't enough." She stood up. She looked small, diminished. "I save lives all day," she said, her voice trembling for the first time. "I hold people's insides in my hands. I come home to be safe. You took that away. You made my home unsafe." 6. The coda. I moved out the next morning. The affair with Elena ended 2 weeks later. Without the structure of the marriage to rebel against, the relationship with Elena lost its shape. She was too loud, too chaotic, too young. The very things that attracted me to her became insufferable when they were the only things I had left. I live in a studio apartment now. The acoustics are terrible. The walls are thin, and I can hear the neighbors arguing, the traffic outside, the hum of the city. I walked past our old house last week. It was dusk. The lights were on in the living room, casting a warm, yellow glow onto the wet pavement. I stood across the street, huddled in my coat, watching the window. I saw a shadow move across the blinds. Sarah. She was probably pouring a glass of wine. She was probably enjoying the silence. I realized then that the silence I had fled, the boredom I had despised, that was peace. I had mistaken peace for emptiness. I had taken a sledgehammer to a load-bearing wall because I wanted to see the sky, and now I was standing in the rubble, wet and cold, while the house remained standing, warm and barred against me. The music in my head has stopped. There is only the ringing in my ears, a high-pitched, singular tone of regret that never resolves, never fades, and never ends.